Welcome back, guys. We're fucking doing it.
Finally doing it.
Finally fucking doing it. Yeah, we're gonna listen to Spineshank, Hi to Callousness today. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, I don't know if there's people that have been like excited to hear it or been waiting to hear it. I mean, I'm not your dad or anything like that. You can fucking listen to it on your own if you want, but the second studio album by Spineshank, and it came out on October 9th, 2000. So, well, their first album probably came out at 98. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it did.
Their first album was strictly Diesel, which I haven't really listened to much, but I'm told by reliable sources that it's really good. So check that one out too. Yeah, my friend Casey showed me these guys at work. I'm really happy he did. They're really good. And they're just one of those really underrated new metal bands that just kind of got buried under everybody else, like I don't know, like kind of Power Man 5000, definitely Static X.
Yeah, and then when I was hearing them, I heard a little bit of Korn in there, a little bit of Fear Factory.
Yeah, you can kind of hear all that stuff. They still kind of have a 90s flavor, I guess, to it, because this was 2000. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there were other bands around that time like Papa Roach and Limp Bizkit and shit like that. That, in my opinion, I mean, sure, I guess they deserve the spotlight, but I don't know. I don't think they were any better than these guys. I think these guys were a lot less cheesy sounding.
And and to be honest with you, too, of those bands that were big at the time, too, I think Linkin Park just killed a lot of bands.
Yeah, but Linkin Park was a little bit later.
A little bit, yeah.
But all right, let's start listening to this. Yeah. The first song is called Asthmatic.
Yeah, I remember a few months ago when you first suggested doing this. For some reason, the first thing that came to mind when you said this, I was like, we're going to do a Spinal Tap album? I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, they got a goofy name, but I don't know. I think they were one of the better new metal bands. Like, they didn't get enough recognition.
And I did not expect this kind of sound out of a band called that.
Yeah.
And even then, when you described what they were like to me, I was just sitting here going, exactly what we were saying a minute ago. I was sitting here going, okay, so it'll be like, Korn or maybe System of a Down or something.
Yeah.
And I did not expect it to be so industrial sounding.
Yeah, and Ashley brought up a good point last night because she was kind of listening to me learn a song, and she was like, "Well, there's no rap in it, and there's not any like scratching or DJ stuff." And I'm like, "Well, not really all new metal had that stuff,
Not really.
but." And she was like, "Well, that's kind of what defined new metal." I'm like, "But that style of new metal came out after this, because."
Yeah.
What I mean, like Korn, they came out in the mid '90s.
Yeah, what was it, 94?
Something like
first
that.
album?
I'm not a huge Korn fan.
And even then, Korn, like when I would hear them, because they were kind of big when I was in middle school and then early in high school. When they came out, yeah, they had a very similar sound to this.
Yeah. But yeah, the first time I heard this album, the first thing I thought of was Power Man 5000.
Right.
Like, this reminds me a lot of like When Worlds Collide, and what was it? They had a couple other big hits off of that album.
Was it like Superhuman or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like these guys, the first thing that came to mind too was, I don't know why, but Gone in 60 Seconds, the movie. Like, it just sounds an awful lot like the music on there. Like that real kind of industrial, kind of electronica kind of stuff. But they were heavy. I mean, like these guys, that's what I kind of could latch on to, was the fact that they were kind of heavy too.
Yeah. Another band to listen to if you like these guys, another underrated band. I think they came out a little bit later. They only had one album, was Hail the Villain. Those guys are the shit too. Casey showed me them too. They're like these guys with a bit more energy. Their singer is insane. Like the first time I heard it, like the first thing I thought of was Chester. Like he kind of reminded me of Chester Bennington a little bit. But they're really cool too, and it kind of sucks that they only had the one album. But these guys have like 4 or 5 albums. But they went on a hiatus for a while, and then I think they came back in like 2012 or something like that.
Yeah, because I read a little bit about them, and I think it was like about 8 years in between albums. Yeah. They didn't make one, until about 2012. And are they even a band anymore? Like, did they?
Nope.
Yeah, I kind of figured they split.
Yeah, so they had Strictly Diesel was their first album, and this one, and then in 2003 they had Self-Destructive Pattern, which again I haven't listened to. I think that's another one of their more common or more popular ones. And then and then they didn't come out with anything until 2012. Anger, Denial, Acceptance, and it says new metal / industrial metal. So, but this album I believe was on Roadrunner. Yeah, it was on Roadrunner Records, produced by Garth Richardson,
which I was reading too. He had I think he helped produce a couple of Red Hot Chili Peppers albums, didn't he?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Because I can't remember the band exactly, but I know that producer's been around and he's produced other people's stuff.
Oh, he's done a lot. He did. So he's the son of Jack Richardson, who produced Alice Cooper, The Guess Who, Badfinger.
Okay.
And then this guy, Garth, has done engineering work for Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nickelback, Motley Crue. He produced Kitty, Rage Against the Machine, Mudvayne, The Melvins. This song's the shit too. This is the title track, Height of Callousness. But if you're watching, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, Nick, Asian, Bergman. I'm pretty sure we were supposed to open for these guys when we were in. Let's see, it would have been probably around 2012 or 2013, so it must have been a merge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we were supposed to open for these guys, and then I think they broke up before then, or I can't remember.
Yeah, that'd been pretty cool. I mean, especially too, just because I've heard you guys play a bunch of times. You played me some of your music.
Yeah,
it's kind of like two kind of way different styles.
Yeah, we were.
That'd been really cool.
At the time, my band Emerge, we were kind of Jimmy Eat World sounding, so like a little bit pop punky, but a little bit more just like alternative rock, and then a little bit of metal thrown in there too, just because that's what I prefer.
Right. Well, you and Richard, yeah, definitely.
We had a lot of fun. That was a lot of good times. Yeah. You know who else kind of this reminds me of is not so much as like some of the other ones, but it reminds me a little bit of like Alien Ant Farm.
Okay, yeah, I can see it.
Just a real little bit.
Immediately comes to mind when I hear this group, especially songs like this, is like 1998, 1999 PlayStation games.
Yeah,
like that's immediately what comes to mind.
Yeah, definitely.
And then aside from that, like a lot of the movies around that time, they would use a lot of bands of this genre. Like it kind of does. It kind of makes really good background music for that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like the high energy kind of videos, Fast and the Furious,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
You know, and I guess you can kind of hear like that era of like maybe Rob Zombie-ish.
Yeah.
Because like Dragula, that was in like everything in like 99, 2000. It was in every movie, every video game. Yeah, I think this album and this band, I think this was a pretty good way to wrap up the 90s.
I think so.
Because it was like, this sounds like the transition between, you know, that 90s alternative and a lot more aggressive, just new metal like System of a Down and stuff like that.
I really like that effect in the background here, like that real like alarm clock sound that they have going on. I don't know. I've always. I know they're not the only band that's ever done something like that, but it's just I always like hearing that because I don't know. Like it's just an interesting effect.
And this one's probably their most popular song, Synthetic. I think this has the most plays by them, other than New Disease, which is after this. Synthetic's such a cool song.
It is.
This is a song that I'm gonna cover.
Yeah, I'm still not decided on mine yet, but I don't know, like there was a couple that I was listening to, and like that's the weird thing too, is like just looking at how these songs are played and everything. The guitar parts don't seem that difficult.
They're not, but there's some of the riffs are fucking sick.
Right.
Like in this song, this part, it's a cool riff.
It's all the electronica is what's going to make it tough.
There's a lot of there's some synth in the background, but I'm pretty sure that's all in post. I don't know if they have a dedicated synth player.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, the rhythms are cool, and then there's a lot of syncopation, especially in that like pre-chorus.
Yeah, I like the intensity he has on his vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can tell it's really genuine too, because I think Pro Tools and other DAWs were around at the time, but they were all in their infancy.
Early, yeah.
So I really don't think pitch correction or auto-tune or anything like that was really being used.
If it was mostly just in pop music.
Right.
Like, a lot of rock, even now, a lot of rock artists don't really use, well, that's not true.
Right. So, I mean, you can really tell it's really genuine singing that he's doing, just a lot of raw emotion.
Yeah. This was back in the era where it's like take after take after take, trying to get the vocal lines just right, and Avenged Sevenfold used it in a couple of their songs too. It's just for an effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a really hard auto-tune.
Right.
That's all it does, is just like if you look at the like waveform of it and like the way that they program it, it spikes like.
Right.
Or like if the way auto-tune is supposed to be used is as pitch correction, where it's just like if it's slightly sharper, where you can't really pitch correct it by it just you can change it like a few cents here and there. Like that's how it like was originally intended to be used.
And I'll tell you too, because I mean it's like it was a cool effect back then, but that's how sophisticated it's become now because it's almost seamless. And in most songs, if you're really not listening for it, you really can't tell it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, the AI now, I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's generic and it's, synthetic sounding, but in human vocals, it's getting to the point now where it's almost difficult to tell that they're using auto-tune on it.
I'll have to listen to Strictly Diesel because I think that's a little bit of a more raw-sounding album, probably the same amount of energy because it was, but it was like the late 90s, so it'd be kind of curious to see how this translates to actually in the 90s.
Right. See, in this song, he sounds an awful lot like Corey Taylor when he sings.
I can hear Corey Taylor a little bit, yeah.
I really like it, and it's got a kind of a cool groove to it. I mean, it sounds like pretty much stock modern radio rock to me, but at the same time, for back then, this. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't really remember from back then, but this wasn't too common of a sound from radio rock at the time.
A little bit, maybe. Like I said, like Power Man 5000, like that song was everywhere back then.
Yeah, it was.
When Worlds Collide, and then Static X was pretty big back then. Well, I don't know, were they really that popular? I know a lot. They have a cult following at least.
Right, and see, I was a little weird back then because right when this was coming out, I was really in like a 80s heavy metal kind of phase, so I really was not listening to this stuff at the time when it came out in the 2000s. So
I was kind of the same. I was still young when this came out. I was like 9 when this came out, but still I was listening to metal and stuff like that. Like I didn't really get into new metal until probably high school.
Right. And I mean just recently, I mean literally this year, I started kind of listening to new metal again because I went all these years going, I really don't care for it. It's a little too simplistic. It's like to me it was a little too stock sounding to me.
Yeah, and I can understand that because I mean it was new metal, it was different. It was the idea was to simplify it and just make it sound just heavy and fat and just big riffs, wall of sound kind of thing. Right.
And then I kind of understood that, after a little while here, and I kind of appreciate that because you don't have to play a million notes a second. You don't have to make it a huge, gigantic, elaborate production.
Right.
All you have to do is just lay down a really good rhythm, have a really good singing and a good message, and then here you go. And I kind of appreciate it. It's kind of nice to just listen to something a little more simple.
Yeah, and their lyrics were pretty good too. This was around that time where lyrics were getting a little bit more meaningful and emotional, I'd say. And they were putting more on the lyrics than like the actual vocal melody.
Right.
And then somewhere after this, bands figured out how to have really good music, really good melodies, really good lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of sound was very common. You go into Hot Topic and you hear this kind of thing.
Yeah.
The goth kids would listen to this kind of stuff, and it was pretty cool. I never really got into that subculture though too much. I mean, it just like you either went along with like the goth thing or all that kind of stuff, or you just kind of stayed who you were back in the 90s. I'm not knocking it or anything like that. I mean, I think it's really, I thought that whole thing was pretty cool, to be honest with you, but at the same time, it's just not a lifestyle I wanted to embrace.
I didn't want to wear the trip pants in the middle of summer, and
So I mean,
I don't know why I was more towards like the skinny jeans and shit like that. I don't know. I think it's what my friends were doing when I was in high school. There was like still the goth table, but then there was like the preppy kids who wore like their Hollister and shit like that, and then there was like the skater kids that I kind of hung out with. And like it was kind of weird back then because the skater kids and the emo / like scene kids kind of mingled together. Like it was kind of strange. Yeah, this is a funny title for this one. I think this is Cyanide 2600.
Oh yeah.
Like why did they decide to put a number at the end?
Right. I mean,
2600. Was it take place in the future?
Right. It reminds me too. Like I'm sure some of you might have seen some movies in the past. Like they would put the year in the title, like Airport 80. Yeah.
The fucking 3000 SUX. Or whatever.
It was just weird. Like I don't know. Like when I saw that, I was like, maybe it's a product of the times, but I don't know. It's just it stands out. That's for sure.
This didn't come out in 2600.
No. We're not even there yet.
No. It's kind of cool the way they use the synth and stuff, though. Like like that. It's almost like I don't know how to describe it. Like a little bit of EDM mixed in.
I think so.
Which is kind of cool.
It's just interesting too because just the entire industrial genre, they were really creative with what you can do with a synthesizer. I don't think anybody before even could scratch the surface of what a synthesizer could do because they would just use it as a melodic instrument. And I think starting around this time, they would use it for effects, they would use it for rhythms. Yeah. So I think it's really kind of cool.
Well, it's funny, earlier you said you thought of God in 60 Seconds. This song specifically makes me think of Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
Like the first one.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's mostly just because of the, the drums and like the, I guess, EDM type music. Because that's what they were listening to. It's, I guess, what the car scene was about back then. Yeah. I don't know. I was 9. I wasn't in the car scene back then.
Well, and the aggressive vocals behind it, I mean, that's kind of like what I'm hearing too is, you hear like the EDM stuff here going on and everything, but yet you have aggressive vocals behind it. So I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
It adds a lot of excitement.
That's cool. Like, that's why I think, because, I don't know, was there really anything else like this around then? I guess.
Not that maybe, I know of. Like, I mean, close, but I mean...
Yeah, like Limp Bizkit did that a little bit.
A little bit. See, it's so weird. It's like those bands, but ramped up just a little bit for this group, because that's why I keep saying Linkin Park, because it's the closest
I guess
for
Linkin
me that
Park,
I can think of that would be close. Linkin Park,
but
Fear
nobody
Factory,
really had the aggressive vocals like them.
No.
Not, at least not in this genre. All right, we're going to side 2. We're doing records today. Like I said, Casey showed me these guys, and then I went to Culture Shock, just looking for music for, it was right when we started this channel, and I found this, and I was like, I'm buying it. Like, I just kind of stumbled upon it. It was just kind of like, they have like a rack right next to the register, but it's kind of like, it was like kind of like towards the floor and just kind of down there, and if I didn't like bend over and like actually look what the fuck was down there, I wouldn't have even seen it. They only had like 2 copies, so I was like, yeah, I'm grabbing this.
Right. Well, and speaking of this album cover, see, it definitely is dated. I mean, I'll start there. It definitely is a dated album cover, but at the same time, it's really interesting how minimalistic yet effective it is. Like, it's
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. What I'm saying. I think it's cool. I like how I was kind of looking at it earlier. It's got like the words underneath it to describe what's going on in there and everything. I don't know. Like, you don't see that nowadays. Like how blurred out it is in the top, like with the face, and how lo-fi that is.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just there's a certain charm to it that you just don't get anymore.
Yeah, new metal was cool. Like there was so much different shit. Like, yeah, they were trying to get more simplistic, but more aggressive and everything at the same time, without trying too hard. It seemed like, or without seeming like they were trying too hard.
Right.
But there were definitely bands out there that were trying too hard, like like
so.
POD and or Puddle of Mud or whatever.
I want to say that was kind of the point, like right around this time, was trying to avoid like all the cheese back then, from the 80s and possibly into the early 90s.
Yeah.
And kind of make something cool. Like, that was the whole thing, was I got to make something cool,
Well, I don't even think it was a matter of being cool. It was trying to do the opposite, like trying to stand out from what was cool. Like that, I can see a lot of similarities between, as far as like, what's the word? Like environment, I guess, between this and like the grunge from the 90s, because it was like they were trying to do the opposite of what everybody else was doing, trying to be not popular. Trying to be not grungy, but
because I mean, and that's the thing too, is in doing so, I don't think these guys fall victim to it, but there's a lot of bands around this time though that they're dated as hell. They you put on the music and it's like, okay, this is 1998, 1999. Like, there's no way it can't be.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like the 2000s, like the early 2000s. But I just meant like culture-wise, like they weren't trying too hard to be anything. They were just it seemed like they were making music that they wanted to make, and they weren't being pressured by anybody. And
well, and looking at their band photo on the back of this album too, they just look like normal
regular
guys.
Ass dudes. Yeah, and then if you watch the video for Synthetic, I think, if I remember right, I only saw it like once or twice, but I think the singer kind of looked like Wayne Static a little bit.
A little bit, maybe.
Everybody had that weird spiky hair back then, but Wayne Static had that fucking...
Oh yeah, straight up and down.
Yeah, which they're on tour now. I don't think they announced who their lead singer is yet, but there's speculations, but I don't know any of them.
Right. Oh, and I was just thinking of this too. another comparison that I can make too would be like Mudvayne to an extent.
A little bit,
A little bit. The only difference is I don't think they were as aggressive as Mudvayne.
Mudvayne, yeah, I'd say vocal-wise, yeah, they were
Right.
pretty on about the same aggressive-wise. But like Mudvayne's music, I feel like was a little bit more technical.
Yeah. Well, and to
Specifically their bassist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then Mudvayne, they decided they were going to go with the whole costume and makeup thing and everything. And that's why I appreciate these guys for not doing that, because I mean it's cool when you do it, but I don't know, like nothing says more about a band than when they go on stage and they have that. They just wear regular jeans and a t-shirt, and they're just there playing their music.
That's what I mean. That's cool about these guys is they definitely weren't trying too hard. They just were playing their music, and it just seemed like they were like, if you like it, cool. If not, whatever.
Right.
You know.
And that's the kind of band I can get behind. You know, it's more about putting out your message and your music as opposed to like making a spectacle of it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely got into the more popular bands like Papa Roach and stuff like that. But
well, and I love Mudvayne. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, and I really like Papa Roach too, and Power Man 5000 and stuff like that. But I don't know. There's something about these guys just because they weren't universally liked.
Right.
You know, it's not that they were hated. They were just
nobody knew about them.
Nobody knew about them. They were just buried underneath all of the radio shit.
Right.
And like I said, I'm pretty sure Synthetic, maybe New Disease were on the radio, but
right.
I mean, you never heard these guys.
Because I'll be honest, I mean, before you mentioned them to me, I'd never heard of this band in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I've only known of this band for like maybe 3 months now.
Yeah,
so.
I would like to know, Casey, if you're watching, I hope you do, because this was your idea. This was one of your bands. Where did you hear these guys first? Because, I mean, he's older than Tim. He's about 10 years older than me, so...
And I want to say he had graduated.
He would have
right
been.
Around
This would have been in high school. This is probably, maybe it was popular back then. I don't know.
Right.
I was too young to really know.
And I was in high school, but like I said, I'm a weirdo, so I wasn't listening to this at the time. So I really don't know.
But they were all, like I said, on Roadrunner, which they put out a lot of metal bands, like thrash bands and.
Right.
See who else? They did Fear Factory. They did. I don't know. They did a whole bunch of those '90s metal bands. So maybe it was just.
That would make sense.
Let me know, Casey. Where did you hear these guys? Because I'm kind of curious about that.
Well, I can speculate a little too because Casey does like EDM music, and I can hear an awful lot of that in here. So maybe it's just came up on a playlist one day for him, and he just hit it.
Maybe.
But yeah, let us know, man. Because to be honest, I kind of like Casey's taste in music. Like it's very eclectic.
I miss it, especially because now all we're listening to is at work. We're just listening to the country station, which I hate country. I like classic country. Like I like Willie Nelson, and I like
some of that's all right.
I like Johnny Cash. It's not even country anymore. Modern country is just pop anymore because now there's a lot of resampled and reheated beats and stupid shit with maybe acoustic guitar over it. And
well, then on the journey to get there to
it's just a bunch of crap.
Country for a while there, they were just like 80s radio rock or 90s radio rock too, and it was so disappointing because before that, like in the 80s and 70s, they were pretty good. I mean, there was some good country songs, but now it's just, I don't know, I'm just not a fan. I mean,
it's funny because it was a joke that when I worked with you guys, we had CDs that we'd find in cars that we would use as testers. And I had to test the radio and something. I didn't have a testing CD. And Casey was like, I asked him for one. He's like, here, you can have Garth Brooks. And just like the way he said it, it was so funny. I ended up giving it back to him because I don't know. I found something else, but it was just so funny the way he said it. The delivery that here you can have, and he had like a little bit of a laugh. You can have Garth Brooks. So there's at least going to be. That's what country does for me. It's a good laugh for me.
Yeah, I mean. And no offense to any country fans out there, but it's just...
No offense to country fans out there. Your music sucks.
It does.
Boring as shit. New country sucks. Like, I mean, Garth Brooks and stuff like that, whatever. It had a special place in time because it was like arena rock,
Right.
It was huge. But in classic country, like I said, I do like. But this new shit, it's just shit pop. Like, that's all it is. Oh, this is a good song, too. Which one's this? I can't remember what's...
That is cool, though. I know, I'm kind of thinking about doing this one.
It's, is this Seamless? Or is this Malnutrition? We're using records, and I can't tell what number's what. It's a cool song. I think this is Seamless. It's either Seamless or Malnutrition. I kind of lost track of what song we were on. We got on a tangent about country. It's fuck country, dude. Like, that's what it does to me.
Right. A lot of kids now, they just are very apathetic toward music just simply because it's background noise now. Like, it's not even... Like when you would see movies or watch TV shows of back in the 70s and 80s, everybody be like into the shit and they'd be like, you know, getting hardcore into it. Those days are long gone, you know. It's like, I don't know. Like, I can't even pinpoint one reason or another why that's the case. It's just, when I hear modern music, it just doesn't do anything for me anymore.
It depends on the music. The lines have gotten so blurred recently. Like, a lot of, even metalcore, ugh.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. It's just, it's all the same shit. Like,
right.
Super, you know, detuned, you know, 7, 8, 9 string guitars.
Right.
And it's, some of it's kind of cool, but it's like there's just so much of like synth and stuff behind it now, and a lot of just way overproduced shit.
Yeah. And I think that's the YouTube effect.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's kind of learned the same stuff. Everybody kind of approaches it the same way.
Yeah.
And they don't really try to stand out or differentiate themselves.
Until you get those ones that are just like, you know, the virtuosos that are like fucking prodigies, like Polyphia. I don't like them either because it's just, I don't know, they just seem like kind of cocky, but Tim Henson's a fucking incredible guitarist.
Animals Leaders too, I've heard them a few times. Man,
but they're kind of doing the same shit as everybody else. That's what I mean. Like Polyphia, they're like one of the only bands that I can think of now that has an original sound.
Right.
And they're doing something impressive. Like, and I don't know. I haven't listened to them too much, but I think it's all instrumental music. I don't think they have a singer.
Yeah, because I've not really heard Polyphia. I might have to give them a listen.
They're not that heavy because they have that one song. Is it Goat? The Goat or something like that. It's not even like distorted. It's all like clean guitars and it's all. But that shit's crazy because like the guitar lines they're playing are fucking insane. But it's like the way the drummer like accents with it. Like I'm more impressed by what the drummer's doing than what the guitarists are doing.
Well, yeah.
And it's tight as fuck. Like I watched a live video of it and it's just as tight live as it is on the record. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give that a listen then. Because I mean, like I said, I wish I could say differently, but I just haven't been excited for new music probably since maybe the mid-2010s.
Yeah.
Because I mean that was, and even then it was starting to get a little stale.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just like I don't know.
I've been more excited about older bands coming out with new music. Like we still got to listen to the new Judas Priest on here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands that are I guess newer, but they didn't like they've been around a while, but they didn't really get any kind of traction until recently. So like bands like Callousness, they started in like the mid 2000s or like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and like I didn't even hear of them until like last year.
Yeah, no, I mean,
or a couple years
showed
ago.
me a couple of their songs, and that's all I know of them so far. You know, and I haven't heard of them until then. Like this has only been a couple months.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of like metalcore bands that were like metalcore back, 15 years ago that just got popular now because they're following that trend,
Yeah.
Like, was it Bring Me the Horizon? Ugh. Dude, they used to be so fucking heavy back then.
Oh, yeah.
And then they just became radio rock, and now they're just weird. They were straight up metalcore. They were heavy as they were super heavy.
Yeah, to just being like basically mom rock, and it's like, come on, it's like, don't do that.
It's kind of just sad, because there were other bands like Parkway Drive, too, that, again, they were heavy as fuck back in the day. And then, they're not like they're soft or anything now, they're just radio rock now.
Yeah.
They're one of the heavier bands on the radio.
Well, I mean, it's time for them to make their money. I mean, that's pretty much what I get from it. It's time to make money.
Because I used to love Parkway Drive back in the day, and then they kind of, I don't know, fell off my radar for a little while, and then I can't remember what the song was, but I was like, the fuck is this? It sounded like Five Finger Death Punch. Like, what?
I remember when Papa Roach hit, what was it, Infest was the album?
Infest, yeah. They had an album before that. It was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
It was so bad. Like, it was kind of cool because you can hear what they were going for back then, but it came out, I don't even think it was an official release. I can't think of it. Old Friends from Young Years or something like that.
Okay.
It was the rawest shit. His voice sounds fucking terrible, and it sounded like they recorded it in like a fucking torture chamber or something. Like it sounds awful. But
no, I remember when
their first
hit.
official release was Infest.
Yeah, because I remember when that hit, because that was right around the same time these guys.
That album was the shit, dude. I love that album.
It was awesome, but then it's like I don't know what the fuck happened, because it's like all of a sudden it's like every album they took a small step back to the point that they are now.
I wouldn't say back. They took a step towards popularity and radio hits. And
whenever I hear bands like this, it brings me right back to sophomore, junior year in high school, because that's about how old I was when this came out. So it's like I don't know, to me that was an interesting time in my life, because it was like you're just gonna be starting adulthood and everything, and your perspective on the world changes a little bit, but at the same time you're still a kid, so it's like you still got time to have fun and all that. But to have this music out at that time, it was kind of interesting, because it kind of kept you grounded in reality too.
So I just thought of an interesting idea for maybe not the next band, but coming up. I think it'd be kind of cool to, like, if you go through my record collection and pick something.
Okay.
And then if I go through, you still got a collection of CDs, right?
Yeah, I got some CDs.
And I go through your shit and pick something from your shit. So that we can do one from each other's collection, instead of like me picking something I like, you picking something you like. You know what I mean? And kind of challenge ourselves.
Yeah, I like that.
Spoiler alert, most of my record collection is Trivium. I have like Styx. I have a Rush, half of a Rush record is kind of a long story. I got Boston, I got Ted Nugent, I got Hendrix.
Although
Hendrix would be kind of cool.
I was gonna say that wouldn't be too bad of an idea, because I don't know a whole lot of Hendrix. I mean, I've heard his stuff, but I love don't Hendrix. Know any of it.
It's gonna sound cliche, because every guitarist is like their biggest influence is Jimi Hendrix, and he's not like an influence of mine, but like you can't be a guitarist without appreciating Jimi Hendrix, because he really set the way for like. Because I don't know, rock around that time was kind of stale, like the Beatles, and in America specifically, like the Beach Boys, and it was just that kind of shit. Where he was kind of more edgy and
because I mean
it's so innovative on guitar.
Yeah, and I would say like a good way to put it for the rock in the mid to late 60s, it was very neutered. Like it was just it was safe. You put it
let's get our best gal and hold hands and go to the beach. Like that was 60s rock.
Recently though, I have been. I mean, especially since we've been starting this project, I've been really branching out and listening to a lot of different genres and styles. A lot of bands that I had heard in the past, but I haven't really given a chance since. So I mean, it's really kind of been really nice to kind of get a little bit of a diversity in my listening. So I've been kind of curious. Are we approaching these songs a little bit too formulaic and too accurate to it? Or maybe would you guys like to hear like our own personal takes on it? I don't know. Leave it in the comments.
Yeah. Well, I know people have been saying we need to do more vocals, but we're not singers. But yeah, I'm just straight up covering the songs for the most part. I haven't, other than like adding a few lead lines here and there, or like little, like in the last one I added a little bit of piano. To
be honest, I don't mind either way. I really like trying to get it meticulous and exactly how the album was, but at the same time, I think it'd be kind of interesting to do like a cross-genre thing with some of this stuff.
Again, if you don't like it, don't watch it. That's all I gotta say. Watch it. Please watch it. We would much appreciate it if you did watch it.
Right.
Oh, my nose itches. Yes, Nick, we're gonna do it. I saw your comment, and I did comment back. But we're not doing a whole album. I think we're just going to do a one-off song, and I think we're going to do Scream, Aim, Fire. But it's just finding the time to do it is hard, because, we got lives outside of doing this and work, and after work, I'm like, the last thing I want to do is, think.
Right. That's why usually I submit my songs so late, because it's like I got to...
Hey, as long as they sound good.
Right.
Your last one sounded really good, I thought. Like the only thing that I did to that was I took your MIDI file and I put it on my drums, and then I just EQ'd a couple things. That's it. All right, we're dragging on too much.
Yeah.
That was Spineshank, The Height of Callousness. Finally. Nobody else thought the joke was funny but us, so we just did it. It wasn't even a joke. It was just we had unintentionally just didn't do it.
That's okay. We'll find another band to make the joke with too now.
Maybe it'll be Jimmy at World. Yeah, and it's a good album. And it brings you back to that time. It's a great album. Definitely listen to it. It's really good. Yeah, we're gonna go. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.